Hey there, this is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com. In this video, I want to share with you a technique that I normally use to help me get out of writer's block just by using a simple gate plugin. Now, typically gate plugins are used as a way to allow certain audio to be heard once the volume of that audio has passed a specific threshold. For instance, here we have some drums. And although we can see it within the gate plugin, we don't necessarily hear it unless we lower the threshold and that volume of that audio passes it. So the lower the threshold, the more of that audio we get to hear. Now these are very useful tools to really control and eliminate any unwanted background noises or any other elements in that audio that you don't really want, and just focus in on the specific aspect of that audio that you do want, such as maybe vocals, but you don't want the air condition that's really low in the back, or maybe some jangling keys or something like that. So you can set the threshold somewhere where you're getting the majority of the vocals, but you can also use it to take out maybe some breaths or unwanted noises even from the vocal performance itself. But what we're going to be focusing on here in this video is really using the gate as a tool to spark some creativity. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop a sample. Now this sample comes from a sample pack that I've created from some of my past projects over the past year, and it's filled with construction kits, loops, one-hits, kicks, snares, hi-hats, transition effects, and it's absolutely yours for free just for watching this video. Simply click the link below in the description box and you can download this right away. It's also 100% royalty free, so you can use it in your projects today. And it works in any DAW that you're currently using because they're just WAV files, so you can just simply drag and drop and you're good to go. Click the link below and download that today. So let's go ahead and listen to the pads. So now let's head over to our audio effects folder, over to the gate plugin, and click and drag that onto the auto track with the pads. And what we're going to do here is, instead of using the gate as the typical only allow certain audio to be heard once it passes the threshold mode, we're going to enable the sidechain. And what that's going to allow me to do is allow another audio source to trigger the gate. So this is going to be really cool in allowing something else to allow the audio to be heard, in this case the pads. So let's hit the sidechain feature on, and just for now let's start with using the drums. So I have track 2, which is called drums, and now I'm going to go ahead and trigger the drums so that we can hear them. But as you might have noticed, we no longer hear the pads even though they're playing, and that's because we need to lower the threshold in order for the pads to be heard through the gate. But now that we have the drums sidechain to the gate, meaning the drums are triggering the gate, you'll hear the pads going on and off or in the same rhythm as the drums. And depending on how much you lower the threshold will determine how much more of the pads you hear. If the threshold's all the way down, you basically don't get to tell any difference between what the drums are doing to the gate. So let's raise that up. And then you can go ahead and mess with the hold and the release to actually go ahead and determine the actual characteristics of the sound once it's run through the gate. So if I want the notes to be held out longer once it's being triggered, I can just raise the hold. If I want the notes to linger on after it's being triggered, we can use the release. And I might want to go ahead and lower the noise floor so that we're not actually hearing it faintly in the back. I want it to be completely silent between each of the notes or between each of the triggering of the drums. So let's go ahead and bring the noise floor all the way down. So that's one way to have another audio source trigger the gate so that it's creating a whole new pattern. And now I'm going to go ahead and use an instrument to create my own patterns that will trigger the gate and create a whole new rhythm with the pads. So let's go to our instrument folder. I'm going to use an analog, which is a 2-oscillator synth in Ableton Live. And you could use anything really. It could be a drum rack, basically anything that you yourself can trigger and create and write a pattern for. I like using the analog because I can basically shape the characteristic of the sound. We can make the sound short by just bringing the release all the way down after I press the key. We can also bring the decay down. So how you affect, or what you do to the analog, will ultimately affect the sound and the character of the pads when it's being triggered through the gate. So let's go ahead and create a sequence. So what I'm going to do here is let's choose one note, hit fold, so I can just focus on that one note. And let's just put a 4-on-4 pattern. And now it doesn't really necessarily need to be a specific note because we're going to mute the analog and we're really just using it to create the pattern. And then I head over to the pads and back to the gate plugin, and instead of drums now we're going to choose analog. And in this case, whatever plugin or synthesizer or instrument that you're going to use that to trigger the gate. So now let's go ahead and hit play. So now the gate is being triggered to this pattern. So if we add to this pattern, as you can actually add a couple more. And so depending on how you shape the actual tone or character of this oscillator will affect the gate. If we raise the release up, you can also use the attack to make, cause it to be a little bit late or behind. So that's just some cool stuff. And what I would normally do is just create a whole bunch of patterns by just duplicating the sequence and going back and forth and just altering one pattern from the other and just going back and forth and triggering these different patterns. And this is just a cool way to use other instruments to trigger the gate, to creating new sequences and all around a new vibe that you can add to what have might been just a typical boring chord progression. So I'd encourage you to use this technique, see if it just inspires you and encourages you to create some new rhythms and really add some new life to maybe some pads or anything that you might have in your projects today. Once again, my gift to you for watching this video is I'd love to send you a free sample pack that I've put together, such as the sounds that you're hearing in this video, but also filled with some other construction kits and loops and one-hits and transition effects and everything you could really use to really just hit the ground running with getting some ideas going. So why don't you practice this technique on the same pads that I have here? Just go ahead and click the link below in the description box. It's 100% royalty free, so you can use it in your projects right away, and it works on any DAW because they're just WAV files and you simply just drag and drop them into your DAW. So you can click the link below. You can also visit beatacademy.com/pack. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.